Peace. This is the Power Hour. Peace. I'm gonna say it. We live in New York. I'm in the building with brother Emmanuel. I'm in here with the Queen sister, Shanoa. Peace to my brother's Prime. Peace to brother Marvin, to Cal. You know what I'm saying? Dien, KTS, everybody in Toronto, all the priorities, you know what I'm saying? Keep your head up, you know. So today, the topic at hand, what we're going to discuss is we're going to go more into metaphysics. So we're going to speak about more metaphysics, and the more that we're speaking about, of course, is the MOOR. So with that, first, let's set the stage for what is metaphysics. Metaphysics is the science of studying that which is beyond the physical realm. It's a term connected to a term which is associated with the operative aspect of watching the physical dynamic of how the laws of matter coexist with one another. When they add the meta to it, it takes us beyond those laws. So now metaphysics is a science that essentially has to be expressed in a language that transcends the language of law, the language of the physical and or mundane world. So the language of metaphysics has to funnel and be threaded through the language of myth. Mythology is the language of metaphysics. Mythology describes the phenomenon which governs the physical world, or how the physical world, the dynamics of the physical world coexist and are manifested. Now, very important that the language of myth is the very foundation for all of the world's religions. Every religion in existence is predicated and advanced by way of the vehicle of the mythology. Mythology is the real reality, and this what we see and what we participate physically in is actually just an anchor just to allow consciousness to be able to have vesture. The real reality is that the soul is here, occupying the physical world and doing with it as it may, as it advances to learn itself. What occurs is there's a margin of error where the physical body begins to take on an intelligence of its own, a false intelligence where it begins to think that it is real, when in fact it loses the essence and knowledge of itself, that it is just a vesture to accommodate something far greater. Sure. The far greater reality that it's housed inside the physical body is the spirit. Spirit is that metaphysical reality. So when you look into the myths, biblical myths of the which come from, well, the biblical myths are Ethiopian myths. The Ethiopian myths got to become biblical myths by way of Sumer's travel into, Kushite travel into establishing civilizations in Sumer by the Tigris and Euphrates, bringing with them all the spiritual traditions and all the stories from that region, revamping them, changing the names, but keeping within the same context a strong scientific inclination towards the stars interaction with the physiological body and their dual effect on the soul's ability to understand who it is. So now, all of the myths that we have from West Africa were transported into, and when I say Western Africa, the Kushite Valley extended all the way from the western coast of Africa all the way to the eastern coast of Africa. They all encompass that one great grand reality. Not until the Belgian Conference did we start separating the continent into these little countries and saying I'm a this and I'm a that. That was all Kush. In fact, it even went all the way to India. That was Indus Kush. They had a constant communication. Now, the myths all were the same. They just changed the names based off geographical location and social conditions. Also defined the need for certain myths at certain times. For instance, the messianic message in mythology became even far more significant after the expulsion of the Moors from Spain, because within the Judaic Moorish paradigm, when they were expelled from Spain, millions of them went back home, which was North Africa, Egypt, and all that. They began to start creating and manufacturing a new scope to view the messianic message within the text, to give them a new place of closure for as to why they were being expelled from a place that they helped civilize. And I'm speaking about the Judaic Moors. Now back to Chaldea. The Chaldean oracles channeled many of the ancient crypto-Egyptological information. Because the Egyptological information that we have access to now is this very precursory in retrospect to what they were really getting at. It stands to say the Egyptian, prior to the dynastic Egyptian, were more astral, stellar connected beings. So they began to manufacture an Asiatic history reminiscent of their experience. When that Asiatic history was then transferred over to a new paradigm of people, a predecessor after, they took on they were now imbued by the mythology imprinted upon them by them before them. So what happens is some groups get it and some groups don't. It creates a disjunction in every social structure where some people are rooted in the myth, know that this whole reality is rooted in myth, and know what myth is. Then you have a whole other group of people who have now historically taken on the myth. Sure. And this is what's going on with these Caucasians with this whole reptilian fiction. That Caucasians can be in some way reptilians. Now cipher. A Caucasian don't have the DNA required for him to be anything but what he is. An experiment made by the hands of the black man. He doesn't have the ability to shapeshift into anything but that. That is something that melanin allows you to do psychically. And psychically, you now emboss on the astral realm and now unify the field of consciousness, and the shaman can make another shaman see what he's seeing when they're both in the state of defocalization. So
break down the word defocalization.
Defocalization is a fancy way of saying I got high.
Ah, shit.
You know?
So just to help the young guys.
Right, right. It's a way of saying I smoked some of that thing, and I bended time and space, snapped it in half, so I now can see a broader dynamic.
Oh shit.
Okay, so now back to Chaldea. We got to go back there, because if you're talking about Moors, and we're going into Moor metaphysics, you got to go back to Chaldea, and you got to reclaim these books. The book is yours. The Bible is yours. Hebrew Tanakh. The book is yours. In the book has your astrology. It has your science of word magic. It has your science of physiological interacting with your body through eating properly, and it also speaks about law. Now, however, it's written in 4 different places because each message exists in 4 different worlds. So we see similarities Kabbalistically. You have to look at anything Chaldean or Judaic through the greatest book on Kabbalah, the greatest book ever composed on Kabbalah ever is the Bible, the Torah, the Tanakh, all of the books. Each part reflects in cross-references and checks the other. Every single letter in the whole book is a word. The people who wrote these stories, which now have become your commercial law, which has now become Uniform Commercial Code law, is rooted in Talmud and rooted in Torah, rooted in Judaic law, rooted in Chaldean, rooted in Sumerian, rooted in Cushite, Egyptian law. How to manage, how to deal with one another. You know what I'm saying? How to coexist, how to interrelate, how to be affected positively by the celestial influences. How to get on the portals, how to go up and out of this existence. The whole story about the prophet Elijah and all of them. Well, every time they get to a bank of water, they pull a big hole stunt and they go up in the whirlwind. You know? It's so many details within the myth. Now back to Chaldea. We had a language that we were able to communicate with everyone within the Iberian Peninsula. Everywhere within the Mediterranean, everywhere between what is Europe and North Africa, that whole trade route where all the wealth was at, and then spanning all the way around the globe, all the way to what is considered the U.S. or called Turtle Island by the ancient Olmec, ancient Olmecs and Aztecs. They used to call the U.S. proper, whatever, Turtle Island. So we had a communication between all these people because we had codified language. We codified language and placed language and quantified a whole gambit of sounds within 22 sounds specifically, right? The language that it's called when the archaeologists found it was called Linear B. So they call it Linear B. It goes from like the same way we go A B C D E F G H I J. They found similarities in Hebrew with the Linear B, right? Now what happens is they took 22 sounds out of all of the sounds because you gotta to speak cuneiform. You had to know at least 6,000 signs, symbols, just to be able to write a coherent word. So imagine if you and I, because when you hear the word Moor, you hear the word merchant. Moor means merchant. Moor means marine. It means water. Moor means love. Everybody loved us when they seen us coming. Amore. You know, the color black was synonymous with Moors. Moors. So now, when we came, we had to, and they loved us because we could speak their language. We knew every language on the planet because we had a whole gambit of sounds based off of the people who taught us how to speak. Kemet proper was the localized region for the institutionalization of lower Kushite Ethiopian science, Nubia. The little short pyramid spots was where the true genius, where all the warriors was at. The darker the Egyptians, the more intelligent, the more intellectually inclined he was, the more brave. You know what I'm saying? Because we established the monarchy and placed the monarchy in Kemet as a fiction. We create the monarchy. Monarchies is really created by you creating a subgroup below you. Because the monarchy have to be ordained by priesthood. The priesthood sets up the monarchy. Because the priesthood is the conduit between God and the world. See? So the priesthood was the ones that told them, let's make up a fake society. The priesthood was the scientists too. Because to be a priest, you had to be a scientist as well. And the lab is no further than the womb of the black woman. So we created beings, set up monarchy, set on them, right? Set them on the monarchy, and we controlled them with words, with language. You heard? With language. So we took a vast use of language, codified it in 22 letters, and then disseminated the 22 letters in all of our business affairs to all the people that we dealt with. We made them all share our language. Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, He, Val, Zayn, Kef, Tef, Yah, all that. From the Arabic to the Hebrew, all of that. All of it comes from the word alphabet, comes from Aleph, Bet.
Yes, sir.
the two first letters in Hebrew, which go into Phoenician, Canaanite, Phoenician, and all that. So when you hear the term Cain, I think a lot of people been confused about the term. When people hear, sometimes when people was hearing Canaanite, they was thinking Caucasian. The Canaanites ain't Caucasians. Abel means Hubble. Hubble means airy, like I can't touch it. Cain means metal. More metaphysics, Chaldean Phoenician metaphysics entailed you being able to address and understand the seen and the unseen. The first two children born, one was seen and one was unseen. They set up the curse in the beginning. See, 7 is synonymous with the curse. 7 is our number because incarnate beings were malefically viewed. The original entities of materialized being were initially looked at as being malefic.
For sure.
The second order entities don't like their fathers because they like, you made us so we could participate in this bullshit. See? That's why Agent Smith, right? Agent Smith is like kind of like in the Shemsu Heru, who are the worksmen of Heru, who do his work, were blacksmiths. So Agent Smith and them was coming to a blacksmith. In order for him to create something, he got to destroy it too. He destroys metal to establish and create shape and form. So only a smith can come and destroy something. You understand? Or build and destroy. You know what I'm saying? So saying all this to say that blackness was always synonymous. That's why Agent Smith in the first movie had to go to speak to and air out his differences with Morpheus. Like, I can't stand this world. I hate this place. I can't wait till it's over. You know? I used to be like, Morpheus. We meet again. See? And he wasn't a bad guy, Agent Smith. Agent Smith just wants to destroy the physical paradigm. So we go into Gnostic scriptures. The Gnostic scriptures, they found them at the Nag Hammadi library. They was found in 13 codices in Kemet. They should just name them shits the Egyptian Gnostic scriptures, because that is the foundation for Christianity, and it is also the foundation for every other approach to duplicity. So these Gnostic scriptures got imported into the spiritual systems of what people know as Zoroastrianism, which has a thread within Islam, which has a thread within the Iranian and Persian systems of duplicity, always speaking about the opposites of a thing. Right? And then when you get into how you learn your doctrine, you learn your doctrine from your teacher. So then you have in the Persians, you have with Rumi, you have the lover, the loved, and the beloved. You know what I'm saying? And then when you hear the music of Yemen, you hear the music of the Middle East, it's love songs of men singing about men. No homo, no gay connotations, but it's the camaraderie, the Habibi, and you all who've been to Africa or got Africans, you see African men hold hands. So the doctrine of these gentlemen were of warfare. These men were warriors. The Habibi were the collective. Can you pause it for a second? Now,
it's good. It's good.
So now it's how auspicious that when we take it full consideration that nothing is random. Our ancient ancestors even placed themselves in the future by putting themselves within the language structure of how we communicate with one another. You be thinking that you saying something new or saying something fancy or slick, but the ancestors have made it so they could be here now, because the most important time to be in existence is now. Now, all of the duplicity that we taught them in our Zoroastrianism and what became Iranian duplicity and all that, now they've taken that whole science of taking two things which are of opposition right? And making the populace choose a side. There's no longer the concept, no idea of being able to be an individual, be individualized per se. You know what I'm saying? They made it where they want you to pick a side. You know what I'm saying? They want you to pick a side. Like you got to be this or you got to be that to function within our paradigm.
Divide and conquer.
Exactly, but we created this as man management. We created duplicity for the psyche, for it to be able to find its inroad in the middle. What happens is with the Caucasian, he has no ability to see a realm opposite of his physical realm. It takes him 35 to 50 years to study at the feet of the masters to understand what it is to be spirit. To understand what spirit is. It's huge for him. You understand what I'm saying? So what he does is he creates this whole artificial reality where he can't see a cohesive whole within the melding or the knowledge that this side and this side can meld without it being an aberration. He tries to mix the male and the female principle in aberrant forms. He tries to do it with the physical world. See? The physical world already has the templates for it to in dual proportion to express both its female and masculine aspects. But because the Caucasoid consciousness cannot see duality appropriately, because he cannot see himself on another plane. He can only see something. He has no idea of what nothing is. Only we have that concept for nothing. Nothing is all inside of our story. See? In fact, nothing is two. See, to understand nothing, you got to begin with two. Two is the only prime number. Here's some numeric metaphysics. Two is the only even prime number in the universe. And that's why it's the first letter in the Bible. It is the very first. Because it says in to describe nothing. It says in as the final word. The connotation for that letter Beth, right, is inside. The remaining of the letters in the first 6 letters in the Hebrew Bible is Rashid. The connotation is in beginning, created everything else. See? In beginning, Rashid. Rashid is the name of the true Chaldean Hebraic metaphysical God that they have now named different things. See, Elohim is this. That's a secondary aspect of what Rashid entails. What does Rashid equal numerically? 911. 911. In 911, create heaven and earth. See? The first duplicity was created by that numeric equivalency. You in New York today, New York became the whole world on 9/11. The whole world became New York on 9/11, and it's still that way. Because in 9/11, Bereshit, how do we now all share the same language? It's called fear.
Our collective fear.
The collective fear. We all speak the language that if you don't do this, I'm going to kick your ass. That's the language everybody know. You can say it in Chinese, Japanese, Ukrainian, Swahili, Arabic, whatever. Crook and flail, guidance and discipline mean the same thing everywhere. Right? But now who is administering to us? Now the fiction is they got it where they trying to make a line of descent from the Egypt to Britain, saying that the British kings is related to the Egyptians. And then they got the spy, David Icke, who pimped this brother. What's up? Credo.
Yeah.
I bought this book
Credo got the
in Manhattan
Right.
on the street. Songs of the Stars.
Let me zoom in on that joint.
You might be able to get it online. Station Hill Openings, Barrontown Limited. Station Hill Openings, Barrontown Limited Publishing. Credo Mutwa. Song of the Stars, the Lord of a Zulu Shaman. Now, everybody know that all that clown Ike talks about is reptilian. All that stuff comes from essentially the lore of the Zulu and all the other Africans who had Mars, who had reptiles and all that in their cosmology, in their mythos. Every time you hear them talk about a serpent inside of the mythos, they talking about DNA's ability. All those stories about snakes is about DNA's ability to exist beyond your present mode of perception. And that throughout the aeons of time, DNA chooses new forms to accommodate and make itself. In tandem with melanin, DNA chooses to be whatever it wants, or melanin, I should say, chooses to be whatever it wants, whenever it feels like. Sure. In this epoch, melanin is choosing to be an ignorant motherfucker.
Gosh.
That's what it want to be. So what? And to show you how deep it is, the cracker is even trying to be an ignorant motherfucker to get into your spiritual energy of ignorance, which is a dark place that he really can't fuck with. Every place he go that's dark, he make it fearful. We immerse ourselves in the darkness. We in a constant quote-unquote nightmare in retrospect to his idea of what it is to be in a nightmare type of situation. You feel me? So now, what happens is very interesting. Credo Mutwa has, and I saw in an Ike book, he had a picture of a bracelet, right? And on the bracelet, it was like the Juicy Couture bracelets that the sisters is wearing now. They get the bracelet and then for a few dollars more, like $80, $90, they could put little trinkets on each joint, right? This is Zulu shaman bracelet. Mm-hmm. Shit, we biting off of our shit. We keep doing what we've been doing. You understand what I'm saying? We be doing in our ignorance what we've been doing in our high civilization and don't even know it, because the true story is about the reptilian, and the reptilian is the DNA. You can't tell DNA what to do. It does what it feels like doing in accordance to certain timelines, certain demands in the culture, right? In Kemet, women was affixing wigs and putting stuff on their hair. Why? They were doing it to protect themselves. Because of the high radiation. They also used to use makeup. Sisters doing it today, thinking, and we thinking and assessing it because of, we think it's cultural pressure. See, even when we think that we're doing something because of something else, it be divine mandate, because the universal mind far exceeds the understanding, right, of a material mundane knowledge.
Oh, shit. Material
mundane knowledge, not tinctured or filtered through metaphysics, is nothing. It makes no sense. If it's not transforming like DNA, and we're not creating breakthroughs, and niggas is still talking about the shit that niggas were talking about 25, 30 years ago, to no avail, we not going nowhere. Nowhere. I want to challenge brothers out there to start, even if you ain't got to be deep into no metaphysics or nothing, or be a good public speaker, put your work in another place. If you know how to write, you guys that's writing the nigga books, all that in a bag of chips and shoot them up, bang, bang. Start interspersing inside them stories some astronomical, phenomenal niggas. Start creating alternate universes where we can occupy where the white boy can't come. I challenge you to start writing books where ain't no crackers in the whole book.
That's it.
Start making a world where they don't even exist. That is this one race and it's this us. Then you create, metaphysically, You create an alternate universe that we can occupy. We're all fucking occupying the Torah. The whole story, they've tricked everybody to live in this goddamn book. Your UCC is off this book. How you slaughter meat is in this book. Everything you do is in this book. Everybody want to make a new religion. You want to be a Muslim? Okay, all the prophets is in this book. Name something that ain't in the book. Name something you ain't create. But you was able to tell a whole story. This is the phenomena using 22 sounds. And what does 22 metaphysically have to do with sound? 22 over 7 is the irrational form of pi. Oh, sure. We speak in a circuitous language. 314 is the three initial numbers of the pi equation. And biblically, the pi is 3. You can figure that out in the Book of Kings. Go into the Book of Kings and look at the dimensions of anything cylindrical inside of the temple. They always use 3 to give you all the answers. And 3 is their pi point. 3. Right? Then they put God's name inside the edifice. Hiding it in the number 1500, but you got to divide it by 4 to get Solomon's name. This is what they used to, Sargon and them used to do in Sumer. They used to make temples. The temple name, the name of the ruling king would be rooted in the architecture of the temple. Right? So whenever you go in a church, right, or a synagogue, you going into a masjid. Specifically when you go into a church, you're going into a masjid. Christians couldn't even think of the math nor the intellect to sit down and make a church. They had to import the science from the builders, the Moors, you and I. We had a language of mathematics that resonated in the geometrically in the world at large, external to us, right? So we was able to recapitulate what we were speaking and what we were feeling into physical artifices using the same mathematics. They had Arabic numerals in the churches in Europe that the builders would put in there as little markers, but they had no use of numbers. No one could count, or for that matter, even read in Europe at the time. You know what I'm saying? So now, Moor metaphysics is everywhere. Freemasonry is Moorish. Rosicrucianism is Moorish. Judaism is Moorish. Everything comes under the Moorish canopy whenever you fucking with spirituality.
Oh, shit.
Whenever. So even if it comes in the form in North America, in the form of the Prince Noble Drew Ali, let me show you something. Found this book rummaging through the shelves in the city where the first White House was at, Philadelphia. Right? Book is called Ibn Barum's Arabic Works on Hebrew Grammar and Lexicography. Right? This is written by a Moorish noble. Right? I'm going to tell you why he's a noble. Let me read the introduction to you. It was edited by a gentleman named Pincus Wechter. Now, here we have in the preface, it says, few particulars are known about the Spanish Jew Abu Ibrahim Ishaq ibn Barum, who at the end of the 11th century produced his great work entitled The Book of Comparison Between the Hebrew and the Arabic Languages. Scattered references to him in the writings of his distinguished contemporaries, Moses ibn Ezra, the noted grammarian and poet, and Judah Halevi, acclaim him as a scholar of great erudition and dress him as prince. Speak of his noble descent and of their friendship and affection for him and for his learning. The whole Moorish paradigm was about you manipulating language.
Oh, shit.
Was about your freedom being in language. Language. Language is the only key to unlocking the mystery of any metaphysical principle. Any metaphysical principle can be deduced to a coherent understanding by superimposing upon it language. Language is the codifying factor for it all. So now here we have in the Rosicrucianism entered itself Judaically into the equation in the form of the Zohar. Here we have a version of it. This is the Mathers version, but this is a new one. This is the McGregor Mathers version from Health Research. Now this has the Book of Concealed Mysteries, the Greater Holy Assembly, and the Lesser Holy Assembly, right? And these are all translated into English from the Latin version from Moor von Rosenroth and collated with original Chaldean and Hebrew texts, right? So McGregor Mathers translated 3 books that were formerly translated from Latin and made it accessible to the people during the time when he was, the shit. This is the Golden Dawn cat. Mm-hmm. Now, here we have a new version, but yet they put roses on it.
Oh, shit.
Reason being is because the rose, like when you see V for Vendetta, he was a Moor.
Yeah.
When you see in the film, his skin was burnt, so they don't even tell you what his color was, but by implication to say that his skin was burnt takes us back to who we are. Because burnt means Kim. Kim means burn.
Oh, shit.
You know what I'm saying? Black means burn. It means sun-kissed. Or something that's affected, connected by solar. So now, the number 13 plays into the Rosicrucian aspect and into the whole idea of the Christ and how Christ has the rose because the second tier of every rose has 13 petals in it. So there's a number science inside of it, inside of that. So now when you writing biblical text, you can't write no powerful text. You can't get into no heavy science unless you're able to have a point of reference that's rooted in some geometry or some true mathematics. So by implication, to even call oneself a Rosicrucian, if you ain't know it was 13 petals in the rose on the second tier, you don't understand what the number 2 is. First of all, metaphysically and spiritually, what 2 resonates and how it resonates in the universe, and why it takes 2 to make a thing go right. Remember that?
Yup.
Right? It takes 2 to make it out of sight. Right? That's super deep.
Oh, shit.
All the blueprints be right there for us. All you got to do is just weave through them, right? So now, here we have, out of the Rosicrucian philosophy, we got, inside of the Rosicrucian story, they got 3 major texts that manifestos, which are to be the official canons for what Rosicrucianism entails. And inside the story is about a woman who they have. One of the stories is about a woman who has some land, and the people that's coming to take the land, the Rosencreutz, who's supposed to be this like legend and hero of the story, is protecting the woman's land from the Moors. See? They took your story, flipped and bounced your story, and made themselves you in the story and made you some non-entity. And this is what's going on now. Look at us. We follow them as they follow us. We following them. I'm not talking about us in the room, because we celestial. We ain't even from this planet.
Oh, shit.
We here doing the work because we come here like a meteor with information from a whole nother stellar configuration, codifying this existence, and the shit that we saying now is not even relevant to these niggas. And it ain't even scary to me. And I don't care that they don't care, or they don't know, or they don't give a damn. I don't care, because we setting the template up for the future. The stuff that we doing now is giving them freedom for the future. The babies. See? So So what happens is, let's recapitulate how there is no metaphysics without the Moorish paradigm. We have to begin to start addressing the Moorish question from a spiritual aspect. And only in doing so will we be able to transcend the great debate between who paperwork is better.
Ah, shit. Break that down, bro.
Everybody got better paperwork than this one. This one, Moorish science ain't like that one. This one got this one locked up. That one cost this. That one do that. All that is irrelevant in the grand scheme because we all on death ground. They're not going to come on the last day and say, "What you a Noble Drew Ali Moor? What you a Mexican Moor? Well, you line up and we killing these Moors and you Moors can live and all that." The concept is to die. The whole reason for living is to set up for the death date. This whole shit is an eschatological experience. Your whole purpose of living is just to die because that's the only thing that's definite. Now, I'm taking it out the nebulous like no one ever really dies shit. I'm talking about this husk that you so love to aggrandize and call yourself. The whole purpose of it is to give a testament to the reality that things are dissipating. You know what I'm saying? So who want to die under their terms? You know what I'm saying?
Ah, shit.
Who wants to die in them terms? You feel me?
Yo.
So we got the whole shit twisted because we think it's all about, a lot of people just want to circumvent responsibility. People want a piece of paper that say they ain't got to do nothing. They ain't got to be responsible for their actions. That's not what it's about. Sovereignty is parameters. Freedom is establishing parameters. The concept of freedom can't exist without the concept of limitation. The reason why the nickname for the 10th Sephiroth or the Tree of Life, which is the kingdom, Malkut, is sovereignty. Because Malkut also means sovereignty, but it also equals the third perfect number in existence, which is 496. 496 is the third perfect number in the universe, meaning it's the third of the only numbers so far that can be equally distributed into itself in equal units. See? Perfect number like 6, 28, and 496. 6, the first number, first amount of letters in the whole Torah. The first word has 6, right? 28, it has 28 letters in the whole verse, right? And it's all speaking about the kingdom. See? So we was able to encrypt the number 6 and the power that 6 entails on the physical world within myth to get a story that teaches us about parameters, the limitations of 6. You know how the gods say 6 is the devil's limitation. See? Because he can't go beyond it. Right? But the devil, in this sense, is the fact that we occupy 7 is the fact that we can transcend 6. And 6 is the number which encompasses and hexagonally holds the physical world into bond. Bonds it. When you say my word is bond, right? Your words actually bond things. The Kabbalist Ibrahim Abulafia once said that it is with words and with symbols that men bind souls. I'm paraphrasing. And souls are binded up by the seals placed upon them. And seals are made by words. And a word, a bond, a seal bonds something. Right? You know what I'm saying? So, how far are we into the tape?
We good.
Well, how far are we into the digital? An hour. About an hour. Let's take a little break.
back.
Now, the point that we last labored on has far eluded my